Hey, what up? It's the Man Fuse Podcast. I am Kay Lee, audio producer, sitting here with my co-host, Ben H.
What's up, everybody?
Today on the Man Fuse Podcast, we have a special guest, Lindsay Bacon, a history teacher and a dear friend of the Man Fuse Podcast. She's here to talk about how history seems to repeat itself from hundreds of years ago. She's going to outline some of the rules of a duel, and she's going to tell us about one badass woman from the Revolutionary War whom Lake Hartwell is named after. And then she's going to close it out by rapping some Hamilton. What up, Lindsay Bacon? Any relation to Kevin?
No. Sir Francis, perhaps. Do you know Sir Francis?
I don't.
Bacon?
No.
Scientist? Early Renaissance?
Lindsay's much smarter. She's much more book smart. And
She just raised the IQ of the entire show by like at least 100. We're probably down in the 20s.
we are going to talk about history. U.S. history, specifically.
Yeah.
Now, I dropped out of high school. I could have given a flying fuck when I was in school about
Right.
history. But I guess as I've gotten older, I do see the importance of being educated on where we came from
I guess.
as to how we got here.
Yeah.
You don't?
No, I do. I absolutely I do. I mean, history to me is super interesting. I don't know who the hell it is that writes history. I mean,
We do every day,
there's
don't we?
there's so much if you think about it. I think the thing that I struggle with is the narrative itself, right?
That's the biggest point of contention with history.
Yeah, I mean,
Who wrote it?
who wrote it, like
it true?
what, and not only history, but like we follow this narrative of what's going on, and that becomes history, right? But the narrative is created by people. The narrative is created by, in our case, like the media. You know, this is what makes social media so powerful, is that people can actually control the narrative
Yeah.
Right.
on
And,
social
Yeah.
media platforms.
and if the majority sees it one way,
Right.
and that's the way it is forever
Right.
embossed into history. It's
Yeah.
like, for the most part, like that's, if it was going to be taught, like whatever the subject was, that's what would be taught.
And that's why
Exactly.
they say victory is written, or history is written by the victors.
Yes.
What's the other side?
Exactly. I do find history very interesting. I just think that it is something that it's the narrative that I question.
So
As you should.
Yeah, I question the narrative.
I always do too. Now, Lindsay, ever since I've known her, she has been a history nerd.
Nerd's okay.
She's a teacher. You currently are not teaching
No, I'm
history.
currently not in the classroom, but I do get into the classroom as much as possible. I'm still in the school, still working with
Yeah.
But you-
teachers and students, but I'm not actively teaching
Do you
history.
manage the teachers? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm support.
You're support.
So working with new teachers, we have a lot of new teachers, working with teachers who want to change things up, and just anytime anybody needs support.
I remember when I called you the other day and I asked you to come on. When I was in school, it was regardless of what the narrative was and questioning the narrative,
Yeah.
it was just always so boring. It was
Right.
just taught from a book. And we were drunk one night, I think. We were at your house. I don't remember which house because you've moved, but you told me a story and, you had been drinking. And I'm not sure if it was the night that you broke out your trumpet or saxophone on your
wow.
front lawn and started playing the Star Spangled Banner.
Dang.
Likely.
Yeah. But the way you told this story about this particular event, I was like, damn, that made it sound cool.
Yeah.
I remembered it clear as day, exactly what you told me. I think there was a show, was it Drunken History?
Drunk history.
Drunk History. I thought that was, did you ever see that, Ben?
No.
Oh,
It
it's
was really
so good.
fun. It was
It's
really-
so good.
Was it one guy or was it a couple of same characters?
No, there was a host, and he would get comedians, and they would tell a story having been quite intoxicated.
Wow.
But the best part is that you would have them telling the story. I don't know what this format looks like. Tell the story, but then famous actors act it out based on like the words coming out of these people's
that's
mouths.
funny.
It's hilarious.
And they're drunk.
Do you know what the result of drunk history is?
What?
A hangover.
Hey, boom.
To the point that you were saying how school was so boring, I mean, I was one of those kids too, where like when I was in economics finally in my senior year, dude, I was like an A student. They put me in AP, like I freaking A plus. Because I got it, because when you put that little dollar sign in front of the number, all of a sudden it was exciting to me.
real.
it made it real. But like,
Take away that $sign and it's just trash.
when the English teacher made me read the book out loud to the class, I did so well that she had me do it every class. And I actually liked it. I got to read for the class. You have to make education fun.
You got to make it relatable.
And really, who gives a shit about half the stuff they teach anyways? It's mostly garbage. I mean, in my opinion.
Not a bad opinion.
The number one thing that I use is my typing skills. I had this typing teacher who was a complete biatch. I mean, this lady, I want to think she smacked us with rulers and stuff in the hand. I mean, she was
You're aging
horrible.
yourself.
What's that?
You're aging yourself.
Yeah, and
You're old as hell.
I hated typing class more than class itself. Dude, that lady taught me how to type in 1 year, and bro, I can still hammer it. I can type an entire page with my eyes closed.
I bet your word count is astounding.
Oh, I can go for it.
I got about 20 per minute, Ben.
I don't even know how many I have per minute.
Yeah, I'm a pecker.
You're a pecker?
I peck.
20 letters per minute?
I mean, I could do a little faster than that. I think I probably got up to like 40 or 50 words, but then I quit.
But I always thought, from the subject of education, right? My son goes to a preschool that we pay for, right? So let's say it's $1,000 a month or something like that. And some parents have 2 kids there, 3 kids there. They're about $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. And then you look at and I started thinking to myself, there aren't a more varied landscape of educational institutions for kids like me and for kids like Kaylee, for example, who are actually really smart human beings. Dude, I would have loved to go to a school that taught cool shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that taught business, that taught,
My high school, we have a vet science program. We've got a culinary program.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, Denmark.
This county has such cool stuff for our kids.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
But I totally get it because I wasn't engaged. I was bored. I knew back then you're teaching me a bunch of stuff I'm probably never even going to apply. And I really like learning stuff that I could take and I can go apply.
And now that I have a son, I'm super interested in what is he going to be learning. I've been digging into the curriculum of the Fulton County school system, trying to figure out what they're teaching the elementary kids. Now that you're here, I can throw this out there. You get 100 families, right, that want to teach their kids to be badasses. And it's $1,000 a month. That's enough money to start to get a building, to hire some teachers, to buy some equipment, and to literally start a school. I mean, you could literally start a school. If you think about the money that's in education, people paying $1,000 a month, dude, you get 200 or 300 students, you're going to be able to offer a level of education to kids. And I know what it would look like because I know how badly I hated all the garbage that I had to sit through.
You'd have to be accredited, I guess, in order for it to mean
you have to be
something.
accredited. And
I don't know what that process looks like. How do you become accredited? I guess you have to go before a bigger board and get approved that the stuff you're teaching will...
I don't know. That's above my pay grade.
Remember when COVID locked everything down and it was like kids weren't going to school, the parents were getting so frustrated having to teach their kids.
Yeah.
And we were like, go to the clubhouse.
Right.
Get a teacher to come in and bring our kids to the clubhouse to be taught by this one teacher and pay her.
Well, yeah, exactly. And why don't we do more of that? Because I think about, okay, they're in the classroom all day. Couldn't they be out in the forest one day a week? You know what I mean? Couldn't they be out there, learning how to do something out in the woods or something? I mean, it's just so monotonous and it's just so soul-sucking, to just sit in class all day, to just sit there under those fluorescent lights and and our teachers weren't rap battling and shit like that. You know what I mean? So it's just like, and I hate it for Jack, dude. Like I think about Jack and
I have
it really.
a Jack too.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Jack's an awesome name.
What are your 2 kids' names?
Jack and James.
Shut up.
So what's your kid's name, Ben?
Jack James. That's hilarious.
I forgot about that.
funny.
I
That
forgot
is
about
funny.
that.
No, Jack-
Because when you say Jack James, I was like, sometimes I'll be thinking, oh, the Bacons.
Yeah.
Because Jack and James.
Yeah.
Right.
Jack Bacon.
He's going to be president
James
one day.
Bacon.
James Bacon.
That's
It
good.
does sound
That is a
like
good name.
it's a strong name.
He said he either
very
wants to be
strong.
president or a professional baseball player. We'll see.
I love it. I love it. I've learned more about myself. I've learned more about life, being in nature, learning how to fish, learning how to build a fort with sticks, learning how to do like survival, stuff like that.
Isn't that why you go to Boy Scouts?
All I'm saying is that should be a part of our education. Like, kids should learn in school how to fish.
And how to
Every kid should know how to fish.
And how about money management?
Money management. Every kid should know.
They did just make that
I mean?
change. I know statewide, 12th graders aren't taking necessarily economics anymore. It's going back to that financial literacy aspect because this has been a conversation for a long time.
Did we ever teach financial literacy ever?
I never took it.
Do you know what I just found out today? And I know that we're going to talk about U.S. history. You know what's going on in Iran right now, with the women banding together and really trying to fight their government.
Yes.
I didn't realize that in the 70s, the women were partying and chilling
Have you seen those pictures of them on the beach in their bikinis? And
yes, I looked it up today because I didn't realize that this power came. I just thought it was always like that.
No.
I didn't know
your
that.
history, bro.
Yeah, I don't. That's why. Yeah, I learned that today.
Dude, Iran was like the only democratic, open society in the Middle East. I mean, it was unbelievable. As a matter of fact, Iraq, even though it was a little rougher back in those days, like, dude, Baghdad was just this badass place to go clubbing and stuff like that. I mean, the Middle East used to be a whole lot different, and specifically Iran did. There was in the 70s, there was a war where, and the side that won.
Who's here now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And writing the history.
Yes, exactly. It's happening in our country. It's happening in the world right now to a larger scale. There are two opposing forces. One side wants an open society. One side wants a closed society. Open society being the state is there at the service of the people's interest. Closed society being the people are there at the interest of the state.
Right.
And this conversation's been happening since the 1780s. Exact conversation.
And it's been two opposing forces. Those opposing forces have not stopped.
The names have changed of the parties, but the ideas, they haven't changed.
Yeah, exactly. And so to me, it's just mind-boggling how anyone, rich, poor, male, female, whatever, how anyone would want a closed society is beyond me.
Well, I would think that most of these people living in these closed societies don't want to be in a closed society.
Yeah, it's a small group of people who want it.
100% they don't.
But they're like, how do we get out of this? Now we're under their thumb and they can do whatever they want to us.
Absolutely. And that's when the people become dependent on the state.
Right.
Well, I'm going to tie it back. Nerd here. That's the whole point of the revolution. It was like, we got to get out of this oppressive monarchy
England.
They don't even represent us. Like, they don't know us anymore.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love how that went down. I look at people in the landscape of our current political environment, and, the forefathers of our country dealt with the same thing that this whole cancel culture, the attacks, the threats, the lawsuits, the utilization of government powers for political, persuasions.
John Adams essentially lost re-election because he got canceled.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He tried to silence people.
So it's really no different.
You can't do that.
Yeah, it's really no different than it's ever been. But damn, what a shame it is. They're using the disenfranchised and marginalized people to usher in their elitist type closed society measures upon the free people of the world and the free people of the country. We have to stand up against it. You have to. Who was it that said, I may be saying this wrong, but the way that evil prevails is for good men to do nothing?
Sounds like a Jefferson quote.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but that sounds like something
I think that's Paul McCartney.
Anyway, it's true.
Very similar dudes.
Yeah.
Very
but it's
similar
true.
Dudes.
Served at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, do we really have the freedoms that we think we have?
Probably not.
100% we don't. There's some shit that you can't say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
not because it'll offend anyone.
That elastic clause, it covers a lot of people.
Yeah, does it?
The elastic clause makes the Constitution elastic, and like when they need to strengthen it, they can. When they need to make it a little bit loose and interpret it differently, they can. But who gets to make that decision?
That's like the Bible. If you follow that, right? Essentially, you can interpret the words however you would want to.
And that's why lawyers have jobs and justices have jobs.
So the elastic clause, who was that written by?
So the Constitution wasn't written by one person. James Madison's the one who's considered the father of the Constitution because he took copious notes at the Constitutional Convention. When the U.S. won the Revolution, we had a failed government first. We had the Articles of Confederation because they were afraid of one large group of people, like a monarchy, taking over. They did not want a strong central government.
Right.
So they very small central government whose job was literally military. I'm saying this in quotes. Nobody can see me because it was still,
She's air quoting.
And couldn't even tax. It was all left to the states. And the states were so different, right? Georgia is so different than New York. And so they ran into a lot of problems with how states can have, certain rights and others don't. And it just got real messy. There was almost another revolution. So a lot of people got together and they were like, hey, look, this isn't working. We need to get back together. They met in Philadelphia in secret. Because if anybody knew that they were meeting, they'd be like, oh, look at all of these wealthy elitist people coming over to start a new constitution, a new government. You got all these people getting together. They are talking for months and months and months, and it is hot and it is nasty. You've got people who were at the revolution. You are ushering kind of a new generation of people who grew up in this world, different ideas, and there were two sides. You had people who thought we need to have a strong central government in order to preserve the nation. And you have people who are still no, we just won a war, barely, to get rid of that. And in order to get people to compromise, you have people like James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay wrote a series of essays. There were 81 essays trying to convince each other's sides, and they were anonymous. They were not tied to anybody, and they were publishing them, saying, please read this.
So they couldn't see who said what exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And please read this so we can compromise. And they did come up with a compromise, and that compromise came from somebody who wasn't even at the Constitution, but was chilling in France, Thomas Jefferson, who was like, hey, look, we get the idea of a strong central government. We're not saying it's bad, but how are we going to preserve our individual rights? But we didn't have these rights written down anywhere. So we drafted the Bill of Rights. So the initial idea was, here's this big constitution. Article 1 says we have a president. Don't know what he's going to be called yet, but we have one. Article 1 is Congress. Article 2 is president. Article 3 says we have a judiciary. That's it. It's like one sentence. Like, there is a judiciary. Don't know what that's going to look like yet. Then we kind of build the rest of it as we go, and that's the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights was ratified, and with that, you have the freedom of speech, right? And you had to get everybody to ratify it in order to make the Constitution. Remember, they're doing this in secret.
Now we have the right to own a gun.
Yeah. Now, the initial idea behind the Second Amendment was to protect yourself against a large government that tries to infringe on your rights, because they had a reason to think that.
Which is what I believe it was Eisenhower on his way out of office who warned about the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
And it was a warning to the people.
Yeah.
Saying, look, this is the real government is called the military-industrial complex. You don't vote for these people. You don't know who they are.
And he knows this. He's got good perspective.
Yeah, he's just got done being president.
He's worked in, he's the war hero. He knows. That's what's going on. So they pass these Bill of Rights. They say, okay, we get it. We can have this Constitution with a stronger central government as long as our rights are protected. But everybody has a different idea about what these rights mean. And they're fluid, right? The Second Amendment is stated they had a reason for that Second Amendment. But now, 300 years later, that idea has changed. It's one of the biggest debates in America now, right? Freedom of speech. Where's hate speech with that? There's things that come up, so we have to add amendments. We have 27 amendments now. The first 10, were added when we had the Constitution, written 1781. And then anytime there's anything really crazy, like, abolishing slavery, it's a really crazy process to go in and change the Constitution. We've only done it 17 times. But anytime history changes and our way of thinking changes and our culture changes, we have to go back and look at that Constitution. The elastic clause essentially says...
Is it called the elastic clause?
It's called technically the necessary and proper clause.
Okay.
But they call it the elastic clause.
I don't think they had elastic back in those days.
No, that's more of like a Thanksgiving sweatpants
What about
kind
Velcro?
of idea.
Did they have Velcro?
They didn't have Velcro.
NASA invented
it. Yeah.
So
Little history for you.
Yeah.
That's what we're walking away with today.
Right? NASA invented Velcro. Yeah, we learned that.
And there's no such thing as space.
Yeah.
So the necessary and proper clause, the point of it is, what if something crazy happens and we need to stretch the powers of Congress? Because that can happen. But it essentially allows Congress to do things that's not in Article 1 that gives them the right to do it. But who gets to make that decision? It's a fluid document. It's a living, breathing document that we can change if you want to erase something, you can, right? The 18th Amendment made alcohol legal. That didn't go well. So they added the 21st Amendment, which basically nullified the 18th Amendment.
Right. Is that why you put the age limit and stuff like that in it? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't drank in at least, I don't know, 12 hours, and I'm against alcohol.
As
Right
of
now.
right now.
As of
Right
as
now.
of this moment,
Yeah.
I agree with the
Hair of the dog.
17th Amendment.
He doesn't like hair of the dog.
Maybe later this evening I'll go 21st Amendment on everybody.
Right. Right. I mean, because that's when, like before it was legal, everyone was like bootlegging.
Yeah.
Shit was crazy then. Go ahead and
Significantly worse than it was when it was legal.
Which is the thing about illegal drugs right now. I mean, why not just make them legal?
But that's the whole,
You know,
that's like the
I
big
mean-
picture. If you look at what we've done in history before, we have experience
Yeah.
with this.
Like,
We know
why
what
would you make
happens.
cocaine legal? Why wouldn't you make cocaine legal? Do it if you want to. Don't do it if you don't want to. I'm just saying. I mean, there's people smoke cigarettes. People die lung cancer every freaking day. People are dying and getting thrown in jail. Their lives are being destroyed
Because of an ounce of weed.
because somebody put fentanyl in something, or somebody's trying to sell something illegally and they get caught.
It's revenue, though, so they don't want to lose that revenue.
They could still tax it. Excise
No, it's
taxes
no
are
revenue.
tax the heck out
Imagine the tax dollars on blow.
of it. Doesn't New York tax soda? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah.
I mean, they used to put Coke in
Tab.
Coca-Cola.
And Tab, too, I thought.
No, dude, Coca-Cola's called Coca-Cola because it had Coke in it.
Tab had it also.
Did it?
Tab.
I
When was the
don't-
last time you had a Tab?
I've
Never.
never had a
You've
Tab.
never had a Tab?
One of my aunts used to drink Tab. You know, it was like a pink can or something.
Yeah.
Do they still
was
sell
weird.
Tab?
Oh, you can get it somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure Amazon's
I just
got
don't
it.
like the
Sure.
word Tab.
I kind of like it. Well, because
Tab.
then that later on in life, it'd be like, if someone said, I want a tab, I'd say, you giving me some ecstasy? A tab. That's what you call ecstasy at one point. Tab. Give me
So
a
that's
tab.
why you
Maybe
like-
that's what was in it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I felt so good. I was vibrating.
I'm actually a very liberal person, all in all. Liberal-minded person. But that being said, I can't even wrap my head around the garbage that is going on in our country right now on the left side of politics and the right side
Oh,
of
you would
politics.
have loved the 1850s.
You know.
Highly recommend checking out the 1850s.
Oh, really?
Talk about garbage.
Someone was caned on the Congress
You
floor.
did your research. You did your homework.
Yes, I did.
Someone
I'm
was caned?
on the Congress
One
floor.
senator beat the hell out of another. We can just say that America wasn't doing too hot in the 1850s, right? Slavery was a big topic, but also we're talking big states' rights. And this goes back to the whole Constitution thing. A lot of the southern states supported the states having the rights and not a strong central government. And as we start to move on and grow and going out west, we're starting to see that a lot of the southern states aren't real happy with how things are going. And we start to see that just gradual separation between the North and the South. The West is just chilling out there, be like, oh, we're going to watch this go down. But you get senators, you got people who are elected into Congress, literally beating the shit out of each other, and nobody's doing anything about it. And they're like, I guess that's just where we're at right now.
That's
So
awesome.
you have this one guy, and I hope I get these right because I'm going to get the names mixed up. You've got Charles Sumner and Preston Brooks. Charles Sumner is the guy who got beat up. He was a senator from South Carolina. Preston Brooks was a senator from Massachusetts. There's something about somebody's talking smack about somebody's granddaddy. There's a lot of story behind that, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of context there that I'm just not going to spend time.
What was the granddaddy doing that was...
He was old and back home, but he was involved in politics before. So people knew him.
Okay.
You know, all those rich guys down south.
Do you think they still had English accents in the 1800s?
I love this conversation because absolutely. Like the Southern accent is a dialect of like British because they were British for so long. Like
So they were like,
Georgia was like super British.
Your grandfather's sitting
Your
at home being a
granddaddy.
dumbass.
Playing-
How dare you say this about my grandfather? I shall beat you with my cane.
So
He
he
was
does.
not masturbating in public.
I don't think that was the conversation, but we could pretend it was. Let's pretend it was. It
Yeah,
sounds good.
let's say that.
So Preston Brooks, like he just kind of shoots his shot and he walks down with his cane, those big old canes that they had back in the day.
Yeah.
And he just beats the shit out of Charles Sumner on the floor of Congress. He's bleeding, and everybody's just like, okay,
Wow.
that happened.
Kind of like when Will Smith smacked the
Yes!
shit out of Chris Rock.
And then
Yeah.
everybody
And
applauded.
nobody did anything. Everybody was just like,
Yeah.
The pimp slap heard around the world was a replay of that moment
I'm
in
telling you,
Congress.
we're reliving history. Like,
It was
we're
the
reliving
caning.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Granddaddy.
So did the guy who got his ass kicked, was he the one talking shit?
Yes.
So he deserved it. So the guy with the cane was the guy whose granddaddy was getting dishonored.
So he said, because my
Don't
granddaddy
be talking
can't
about my granddaddy.
be here to stand up for himself,
I'm going to whoop your
Yeah.
ass.
right? There's a lot of pride with these
Yeah.
guys and these families and stuff. I'm going to whoop your ass. And he did. Sumner he didn't come back to Congress for a while. That's for sure. It's a blip in the day-to-day of
But
the 1850s.
that's how it was back in the day. You talk shit about my people, or you talk shit about somebody that's not here to whoop your ass, I'm going to whoop your damn
Duels
ass.
were outlawed at this point, so
you
I'm
know.
going to do it in this very public forum.
Right, on Congress.
everybody to see.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess
So
he might have
duels
had
were crazy.
respect. I wonder, no one ever mouthed off to him again, I'll bet.
Do you know we had a president who killed a guy in a duel?
Who was it?
I don't know.
Coolidge?
Who do you think it was?
Henry?
Henry. You're just throwing out old names.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew Jackson.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Bro, can you imagine getting
He was not
challenged to a duel?
But
Like
he
guns,
was not
like
president
guns, right?
when that happened.
Or was it swords?
Oh, there was like very specific rules. There's only certain guns you can use. There's a really good book about dueling. It goes all the way back to like with like knights when they used to do this. What was that movie that just came out with Ben Affleck and Kylo Ren guy?
Adam Driver?
Yeah. About a duel between these two dudes. This has been going on forever.
Yeah.
But when you get to the more sophisticated life, you
Right.
have these real fancy guns that have one shot. You have to have
Like
a
that.
second. Yeah. It's,
Hand cannon.
you have to have a second who can be there to try and like talk it out and like, use diplomacy before you get to the duel.
Someone that will reason.
mediator.
Yeah. In fact, in Hamilton, there is a song which goes to the 10 crack commandments called the 10 duel commandments. It talks about
Really?
all the rules. You got to have a doctor present.
Oh. See, in movies, you don't ever see a doctor on standby. And if I've ever seen a movie, I don't ever see anybody like trying to mediate and trying to negotiate.
No.
These are gentlemen.
Oh,
Yeah.
Distinguished. They're going to shoot each other.
I'll never forgive you.
You
Yeah.
must die.
There was a lot of rules. Hamilton's son died in a duel. He tried to talk him out of it. And because, wait for it, somebody was talking smack about his daddy.
Oh.
Yeah.
You don't talk about my lineage like
Yeah.
that.
So his son, he was all mad that somebody was talking smack about his dad and challenged him to a duel. Hamilton was like, please don't do this. And he's like, nope, I can't back down. I'm a Hamilton. And he got shot and he died. And then Hamilton got shot and died in a duel.
Dang. He did too? Hamilton did?
Yeah, by a vice president.
Dang.
So you can't walk away from a duel.
You can, but then you're a...
You're
like,
a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't show your face again. You're like disgraced.
And he's like, upper echelon New York. He's married to a real wealthy family. Like, he's done a lot of things. He can't say no.
When you win a duel,
Everything's legal in Jersey.
you're a bad motherfucker.
The guy who killed him, this is kind of like, duels still we're starting to be like looked down upon. Like, we should probably use the courts that we set up. But he ran away to Mexico.
Really?
Yeah, and he died somewhere.
So it was just a complete waste of a life.
Yeah. And Hamilton he was smart, man. He would have done insanely crazy, awesome things if he did not get shot.
What do you think he would have done?
Well, we can go back to the financial plan because, he created a treasury for America, which is crazy, but he got himself into so much trouble. He had an affair with somebody, and then she blackmailed him
Oh.
Dang.
for money. And instead, because this guy was so full of pride, instead of just kind of dealing with it, Jefferson, who was his political enemy at the time, was like, I know you're doing something bad. He thought it was land speculation, and he tried to get it out of him. And Hamilton's like, you're not going to smear my name. So he wrote this essay and published it in newspapers about him cheating on his wife and then paying people to keep quiet. Everybody's like, you did that to yourself, bro. So he kind of backed off and he went back to New York and was quiet. And that's when his son died. So he was real quiet for a while, but he would have gotten back involved in politics because with all the crazy stuff that was going on,
Yeah.
he would have totally gotten involved and probably would have been president.
You could do all that.
He had a good
and
following.
Become president, yeah.
Well, his political party fell apart.
Spies. Lady spies.
Everybody loves spies and espionage,
Yeah.
right? That's something everybody's into. But the funny thing about spies is that the nature of espionage, there's no written information about it. It's
Right.
all myths and stories and legends. So when you think about all the spies and like the Culper-Spiring that Washington led, which led to us winning this war. Nobody talks about that. Everybody's thinking, oh, our military was so good. That's how we won. Our military sucked.
Yeah, it was not
We had
good.
nothing. But we had a lot of really good spies, and the spies were not military people. They were regular people who just like used a clothesline to like pass information. They used their whaling boats. They created a secret ink to pass letters. And they were regular people just living their day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Did they use carrier pigeons then?
I don't think so.
God, those things are badass. If you sent one modern day, no one's looking for a carrier pigeon.
It's true.
That's very true.
Everyone's looking for emails. See, Trump should have used carrier pigeons. He should have had like militant carrier pigeons, like dressed
Stacked.
in gear. Yeah.
They've got their little swords on them.
Because
And
carrier pigeons have like this inner beacon. Drive them like 1,000 miles, and they know how to get back to where they were.
Crazy.
Inner radar.
Pretty fun to have one.
is there a job
Could send a note
where
to
you
my
train
house.
carrier pigeons? Is that a
Well,
line of work?
Dude, I wonder if we can get them to fly between our houses.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's what we should do.
Are you coming over?
This is happening. I'm watching
this
you
is-
guys right
How
now.
Let's
badass.
raise some carrier pigeons.
One that
You
goes
should have
back
a
and
backup.
forth.
What are we going to name him?
Whatever.
Or her?
Doesn't matter. He's tagged with an Apple tag.
Yeah.
Are you still trying to spy, or are you just chatting? Are you just
No,
like,
I just
having
want
a
to
good old
chat.
conversation?
I mean, Ben and I don't communicate about the podcast unless it's in person or
Yeah.
by carrier pigeon.
That's right.
And how badass would it be if it just landed? You know?
Yeah, I wonder what the range on a solid carrier pigeon is.
Oh, they go far, dude.
You know what I mean?
No, they go far. I mean, like, if you
Do you
think
have
about...
evidence to support this?
Well, it's in the books. It's in movies.
I think we need to get a little bit more info on carrier pigeons.
No,
for sure.
dude, I'm telling you, they do. They go far. Like, if you think about how
Like
they
10
communicated in
miles?
the medieval times, right? That's
Oh,
when they
yeah.
used carrier pigeons.
Yeah,
Ravens in Game of
Dude,
Thrones?
Game of Thrones.
it's real.
Yeah, the dire wolf.
The dragon lady.
Yeah,
You
the
know?
dragon
Hopefully you don't
lady.
have like a three-eyed raven who can just like...
Now there's just cat ladies.
Yeah.
There's no dragon ladies anywhere. Just who's the cat lady? That's what we're gonna do, Ben. We're gonna have the man-fused carrier
pigeon.
pigeon.
I cannot wait to see
That'd be
this.
awesome.
We're gonna get one.
Really
You know,
excited
Mike
about
Tyson. He's a pigeon guy.
I thought he was
Yeah.
a tiger guy.
Well, he is now because he's rich as hell. But
Yeah.
when he was ghetto,
No, he
Mike-
still has his pigeons.
No, I know he does.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
He loves pigeons. They're like his thing.
Are they
Yeah.
like street pigeons that he found, or does he breed them?
Well, I
Yeah,
think
no,
he
like,
probably
he
breeds
keeps
them now.
them
He
and-
keeps them. It was like on a documentary with him or something.
well,
And
you
like,
just found your mentor.
Mike Tyson. We need
Please teach
a
us about
carrier,
carrier
pigeons.
Mike Tyson, if you're listening.
Right, we want to transfer joints
Yeah.
back and forth.
Oh,
Just like
that'd
a
be cool.
rolled up note.
Yeah.
You
And
get
then
a
in the
wax
joint.
seal.
So it'll be a note with a joint inside.
I challenge you to a duel.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
It's-
Duel at dawn.
There's going to be a duel. Going to be because somebody talked smack about somebody's granddaddy via carrier pigeon.
That's right. Your
I'm gonna-
granddaddy sucks.
I mean, we had right here in Georgia. One of my favorite stories, Nancy Hart. There's Hart County. You know where Hart County is?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's like, I want to say it's Lake Hartwell. I'm not from Georgia, so like,
Hart, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's named after this really, really awesome woman named Nancy Hart. And just fun fact, in 8th grade, your children will learn about her. She is very part of Georgia history. Now, here's the thing, though. There's a lot of myths and legends about this. Recently, they've come up with a couple of pieces of evidence that they can corroborate to prove the stories to be true.
Right.
But she's like the perfect example of just like a cool person. Wasn't educated. She was like a frontier girl. And she was like 6 feet tall, fiery red hair, had a penchant for vengeance. During the time of the Revolution, she hated the Loyalists, the Redcoats. Not a fan, which is crazy. 'cause-
Modern day Democrats.
I hate redcoats.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I'm
I
gonna start
learned
calling
you should
Democrats
not call British
redcoats.
people redcoats right now.
The
It's like
redcoats
really
are
not
coming.
okay. Georgia was a loyalist colony because it was the newest colony. It wasn't a colony until 1734-ish, and it depended on England for trade. It's all we had here. We only had Savannah. That was about it.
Right.
So people here were like very pro-England, pro-King, and there were not a lot of people who were like pro-independence, pro-America. She was one of the few. And her husband was in a Georgia militia, and he was off for a while, and they had this little house, and she was just like known, like the Cherokee Indians who lived around here called her Wachata, war woman. They were like, you don't mess
Dang.
with this lady.
Wichita.
And she didn't play. People knew that. And all the loyalists around her, like, knew who she was, but she did crazy shit. Like, she would dress up like a man, go pretend to be, like, a simple-minded dude and wander into, like, these British war camps and just try and get information and just pretend to be just this simple dude. And she would get things, pass that information to her husband, who would go tell the militia. She did that just, like, for fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then she used her daughter, Sookie, but in my head, I think Sookie Stackhouse. She was in on it. They had this, like, conch shell that was, like, kind of far off. They lived in the woods, and whenever there was, like, trouble, she would go blow the conch shell, like in The Lord of the Flies.
Well, yeah.
And that would alert the militia there are loyalists around.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of instances where she got real nasty and, like, people knew who she was. Like, there was this one time she was making soap in her fireplace and, like, what do you use? Lye? What's the acid that you use?
Yeah, lye.
And it's hot and shit. And she, her daughter saw an eyeball looking through the window, and she was like, there's somebody spying on us. Because they knew that she was this person who did weird things. And so she just took the boiling soap and threw it at the dude. Didn't know she was going to hit him, but she did because she heard him scream. And then she grabbed him and turned him into the Patriots as a prisoner.
Wow.
And so even
badass she was.
Yeah, and she's just like chilling in the frontier. But her like best story is that her husband was away with the militia. She was at home with her daughter who was making butter, doing Georgia things.
Right.
And there was like 4 or 5, 6 of these British soldiers who come to her house because they heard that there was a Patriot soldier who came by to get information from her that she'd collected from, dressing up to be a dude.
So were they, it was a kind of threatening, were they on her property?
Yes, they were on her property, they were armed, and they said, we know that you were talking to these Patriot soldiers. And she's like, I was not. She absolutely was. And she was lying, but like they knew her demeanor, they knew she had a,
She was shady.
Yeah. And they were not very nice, and they went and they shot her prized turkey. She didn't have much at the time, right? Her husband's away. They had this one turkey, and instead of flipping out on them, she was smart. She was very street smart. They shot the turkey and said, woman, let us in and cook us this turkey. And she's like, come on in. It's going to take a while to cook the turkey, but I have wine. Y'all want to share some wine with me? And so she gets them real juiced up. They line up their muskets by the front door because they're a bunch of idiots. And they're sitting there thinking, oh, this woman, we finally got her. We're going to drink her wine. We're going to eat her turkey. And meanwhile, she sent Sookie, her daughter, to go blow that conch.
Yeah.
To alert the militia. And then Sookie comes back. Sookie's standing at the door, and Nancy is all talking to them, and she's passing the muskets through their door so that there's no muskets. And one of the dudes sees, and he's like, I see what you're doing. You stop. But they don't have their weapons on them. And she said, don't move. And one guy did not believe her, and he got up to move, and she shot him right in the chest, and he died right in front of everybody.
Nice.
And everybody's like, ugh, we didn't get our turkey yet. So we wait around.
Yeah.
So we keep drinking this wine. They have our weapons. There's nothing they could do. And so she wounded another dude just to make a point. Her husband finally gets there with the militia, and he says, we're going to just shoot them all. And she goes, no. We got to show the other soldiers not to mess with us. So she goes and hangs them. And they're hanging there, and everybody's like, okay, do not mess with Nancy Hart. We know what she's going to do. There's so much of this, though, is story. It's like Georgia legend. But in 1912, there were these, like, railroad engineers who were building a railroad near where her house is, and they were digging stuff up and found, like, a bunch of skeletons.
Wow.
And they're like, that shit's real. She did that.
So she hung him from, like, a tree?
Yeah, so that any soldier, any British soldiers came by and be like,
Boo, 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 boo.
leave your accent at the door. You're in Georgia.
You're in Georgia. Well, but they were British back then. I mean, like, we had accents, right?
Well, and that's the other thing. So many people in Georgia were loyalists still, and she's like, no fear. I support the American cause.
Right.
In fact, I'm going to hang these soldiers here for everybody to see. Look what I did to them.
War is interesting. It's a really nasty thing that people do when they, kill each other. It's just part of humanity, really.
Yeah.
It's just part of humanity is that we kill each other. It's so weird.
We've always been evil to each other and to every other being on this planet. Yeah, I mean.
And going back to your point, Ben, about who's telling the story. Who's telling the story? Is Nancy telling the story?
Right.
Like the soldiers are dead. They can't tell the story.
Exactly.
What happened on their end?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe she was just like a hot mess of a person, which she probably was, and she just shot them for no reason.
Right.
And we don't know.
That's right.
But it's legend in Georgia.
That's pretty cool.
She's the only woman to have a Georgia county named after her.
It just kind of reminds me, like,
cool.
when you put it like that, it's like The Wizard of Oz. we've all seen The Wizard of Oz and the Wicked Witch of the West.
That's right.
But then there's Wicked,
So good.
which is the Wicked Witch of the West's version of the story. And you're like, oh, so
That makes sense.
So the good witch wasn't necessarily the good witch.
Yep.
But she was painted in this light
Right.
where her narrative, like she is
Elphaba.
pure.
Right.
And the green witch is bad, but yeah, and that's
She
like
went
it's-
bad for a reason. That's
kinda-
history. Like all the things we look at, all of the stories we hear, they're stories.
Yeah.
We don't know what's the fact. Yeah, you can have all of these historians who, compile all this stuff.
But it's also
But at the
about
end of the day,
perspective.
it's perspective.
Right. How do you see that version? And then you incorporate it. And if you're the one that's writing it down in the history books or whatever.
Oh,
they
you have
say,
a degree. You must be the end-all be-all. But,
so your perspective is better than someone else's? No.
but that's the biggest thing right now. I think that's the hardest thing when you look at history, but also as just being a human being, is to think of the perspective of people back then, right? When you think about what it's like to live in America in the 1820s. We have no idea what that life was like. We cannot judge those people for the decisions that they made.
No.
Whether they were right or wrong,
Yeah.
we have no idea what their life was like.
People are a product of their times.
And so you have to wonder about the narratives and who controls the narratives. And it's interesting what you see when you start looking back in history as it pertains to things like, we had Daniel Bland on here talking about the flat earth. I mean,
He's
this
very
is
intelligent.
This is not a stupid person. He was in the military. He's a war veteran. He was in the cavalry. This is a really smart guy who loves his country. 9/11 is another thing that he's been investigating. And when you start thinking who writes the narrative, who controls the narrative, who puts out the story, you know what I mean? How is it that becomes
Fact.
history? It becomes
Way
a
more
fact.
complex than that. It
You know what
can't
I'm
just
saying?
be that, Like, how?
Because, for example, with regard to 9/11, if 9/11 was actually something that was planned and executed by the military-industrial complex, for example, it's genocide. I mean, it's like,
Treason.
and it's not a terrorist attack.
Changes
Well,
everything.
it
You know what I'm
is a
saying?
terrorist attack on,
On
your
your own
own
people.
country.
Right, but I mean, just think of all the people in Afghanistan and Iraq and all over the Middle East. Millions of people were killed based on that story. And our own people like Daniel Bland. I mean, I was over in Iraq, but I didn't sign up for the military because I wanted to kick ass. I signed up for the military so I could live in Europe. And that was, it just happened to be June of 2001. Great
Right.
time to join, right?
Good timing, Ben.
Yeah, awesome timing. But at the end of the day, you think of that and it's like, well, whoever it is and whatever it is that is creating this narrative does not have the interests of the people in mind. It's not about the interests of the people.
It's
So what is it
self-serving.
about?
And that's not
Self-serving.
unique to now. That's
You know?
not unique to any time period. It's always like
It's always
this.
self-serving.
Yeah, that's where it's human nature.
Stay in power, get more money. I mean, what else is there?
Respect.
Women. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. RESPECT. Yeah.
Money, power, respect.
Golden pigeon.
That's how you get the women.
That's how you
That's how
get 'em.
Benedict Arnold got his woman.
Yes, sir.
We know how that happened for him.
That was a pretty good story about Hart. I like her. So is she buried here?
I think her monument's it's somewhere over in Hart County. It's like the Broad River Valley area, just northeast of Athens, I want to say. And, she's part of, the standards. The standards dictate what we as teachers teach. And she's part of that standard
That's
because
cool.
it really shows just pride in Georgia. You
Yeah.
got Tomochichi. There's lots of cool people here. I moved here from Florida, and my first job was teaching Georgia history. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I got to learn some things. But, it's, state by state. Every state has different standards. And it's all the perspective of the people who live in that state. What do you want your kids to know?
That's right.
Well, you're following the standard of the county and the state that you're in. Is there stuff that that you're teaching that it's like, okay, well, I wish I could bring another perspective
Oh, yeah.
of these events,
Yeah.
or I'm leaving stuff out because it might hurt someone's feelings,
Yeah.
maybe, or someone's going to be way sensitive about it. You're not saying that slavery didn't happen, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, we're reading an essay by John C. Calhoun called In Defense of Slavery. That's a great example when you teach an AP class, you have different standards. You have College Board standards because it's a college level course. Versus when you have like an on level or depending on what county you're in, honors U.S. history, it's dictated by the state standards. They're very different.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot more freedom in an AP class, but you also have kind of the caliber of student who can think with complexity.
Right.
So there's a big difference. So like in my AP classes, I am kind of bringing in things like that because I know these kids can handle it and they also understand the nuance of history.
When you say they can handle it, they're not going to be butthurt about or their parents aren't going to freak out because
that could happen, and it has. So you still have to be careful. And let's be real, the past 3 years has been a lot more difficult than it was prior.
Definitely.
Teachers have to be a lot more careful.
Is that because of the woke culture?
Yeah, there was a House bill that just passed this year. I can't think of the number. It's called the Parents' Right Act. And, as history teachers, there is not one history teacher that exists at my school, and I can only speak to my school because that's what I know, who's trying to do anything outside of what our job is to educate students. They do this job because they love kids and they love history, and they want kids to love history.
Right.
I'm sure that somewhere in the world, in this country, there's people who aren't doing that. I speak for my school. Great human beings doing a great job.
Yeah.
People who know that they're doing this for the right reasons and love history are not making bad decisions. They're making good decisions. There are people who are worried about this House bill because what if you have a kid who's out to get you and, they put their phone up to film or record you saying something and they take it completely out of context, like what I just said. I just said, John C. Calhoun writes this essay in defense of slavery and we're going to read it. Why are we reading it? To understand the perspective of the people who are willing to die to keep slavery.
Right.
Why in the world are these people willing to die to keep slavery? If we read this essay, we can get inside their mind. But you get a kid who records a teacher saying those words, boom, it goes to the news.
Now you're supporting of slavery and you want to bring it back.
Yep.
No!
So that's the craziness of it. And it hasn't always been like
that.
The
carrier pigeon brought the wrong message. He took the wrong message.
Blame it on the pigeon.
Yeah, it's the pigeon's fault. That's really good. That's really interesting.
So that's, when you have an AP class, you have a different caliber of student who can think in those terms. That doesn't mean every student in that class gets it.
But
you
you're
can
talking
attempt
about
to
a
do
student
that.
like going, okay, listen, I can appreciate her wanting us to read this essay. You're getting in their head in that time that they were living in.
The whole goal of taking a college course in high school is to start thinking more maturely. And the whole point of college is use your brain.
Look at both sides. Look at all the information that you have.
That's not even just college. That's life. Let's be real. That's life. Now, can you do that in an on-level class? Absolutely. Do you have kids sitting in that class who are interested about that? Not as likely.
Right.
It's not worth doing.
Right.
Got to be pretty courageous and brave to do that. So you kind of stick to the standards, and it's to be safe, which is not my favorite thing in the world because it feels so scripted, and you don't get to tell the fun stories, and you don't get to give the different perspectives because instead of thinking about complexity and perspective, you're taking everything at face value. Right. And that's just not fair.
And you're giving them just that version of it.
Are there teachers who do that? Yes, they exist. Should they be in the classroom? Hell no. They're doing everybody a disservice. I can't say I know any teachers who do that.
Teachers don't get paid enough. We love you, for doing what you do. And I mean, you would be an awesome teacher. I want to show up in class. Can I show up in class? I'm going to go back to high school, Ben. You want to go back to high school? Be like 21 Jump
I'll bring
Street.
y'all in.
Yeah,
I'll bring y'all into some classes.
We'll be narcs.
That's right.
Let's be narcs. I'm only 18. But do you know any teachers that have stepped out?
I do know teachers who have left because of this. I don't know anybody who has been forced out because of it. I know people who said, I don't get paid enough for this shit.
Yeah.
Which is a damn shame because they are good teachers.
And they just can't teach the way that they want.
It's not about teaching the way that they want. It's just the fear of repercussions of just trying to do your job.
Right.
It's not worth it.
Ever since Daniel's been on, I've just been in this rabbit hole about the flat earth.
AP World History, they look at all the perspectives.
Right.
Why did people think that?
Right.
And they go and look at it. And kids love to bring up stuff about today. And they're like, okay, well, there's people today who have way more information and technology than people had back then.
Yeah.
How can they still believe this? Let's talk about it.
Right.
I've got this teacher at my school. He's military. He's probably the same age as you. Fascinating dude. He's one of those guys that, you could just listen to tell stories forever. Right. And it's one of those things that, he can get his kids so intrigued by just a story that they start thinking,
It's like Jesus. Tell a story, make a point.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
This is my personal opinion. That's what makes him a good history teacher a good history teacher.
Right.
You could know the pedagogy, or you could just be a really good storyteller. My best professor in college, he was like alive during the Civil War. He legit started teaching at FSU in 1949.
Wow.
Jim Jones, not that Jim Jones.
So where in Florida are you from?
So I'm originally from Chicago.
Okay.
Moved down to South Florida.
Got it.
Fort Lauderdale area.
Because you said FSU, I'm from Tallahassee.
Yeah. Are you an FSU fan, though?
Of course.
Yes. Jim Jones has been in Tallahassee. Well, was. He recently passed away. Rest in peace. He taught one class a semester. And that one class, he got to pick whatever topic he wanted. And that one class was 3 hours long once a week.
Wow.
People fought to get a seat in that class. There's 30 max. And
That's how you know he's a good damn teacher.
I wasn't even a history major. I was a music major when I went to college.
Wow.
I was not supposed to be a history teacher, but I got my teeth knocked out at a concert. I was at a mosh pit. Crowd surfing fell, and you can't play saxophone without teeth. So I had to change my major and move to history education. So that was fun. And I listened to this guy. He would talk for 3 hours, and he didn't have flashy technology. Podium with no notes.
Yeah.
And this dude talked. My first class I took with him was Civil War. Fought to get into his next class about World War II.
Yeah.
I learned about the craziest shit, and I remember it all. And all of the people in that class who I still talk to, we had these weird inside jokes about Jim Jones and like his stories about like balls and like weird things. To this day, is still my favorite histoy professor because the way you tell a story.
Man, and he talked about balls.
There's a lot of context behind that I did not include, but if I had any friends from those classes who listen to this, they're going to laugh.
Yeah, balls.
Jim Jones and
Jim
balls.
Jones and his stories about his balls.
Best teacher I've ever known.
Man, he was the best. We fought tooth and nail to listen to him talk about his balls. The most legendary balls in the business.
So he may not have been rapping in class. Captivating.
He had a hell of a pair.
Right.
He also had a carrier pigeon.
Oh,
No
fuck,
way.
He was
man.
so old. No, I'm
He
just
did?
kidding.
He's a
I
god.
got so excited.
Jim Jones is a god.
Yeah.
Everybody that knew him thinks he's a god.
Yeah, we need to put him on a T-shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should.
There probably is somewhere in Tallahassee a t-shirt with Jim Jones on it.
Was it his cadence and delivery? If I had to like imagine what he sounded like.
No, he was entertaining. For an old dude, he was super energetic. He would tell a story and kind of like tell the weird things about it to kind of hook you.
Right.
And then tell you the stuff you really needed to know. Like, hey, you're going to be history teachers. You should know this stuff. Then he would just surround it with all the different stories that support that. And they were different and weird and funny and sad. And it was like, damn, history is like human. It's human. There's a little musical based on history.
Sweet.
You ever heard of it? It's called Hamilton.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I have heard of it.
Have you heard it?
Have I
Are you
heard?
familiar with the songs?
No.
Are you a fan of 90s rap?
Yes.
Okay. I think you'd like it.
Really?
Yeah, so it's based off of a book by Ron Chernow,
Okay.
who's a very famous historian, and he helped produce the play. And Lin-Manuel Miranda is like a child of the 80s and 90s. He's amazing. And he wrote this based on the book. He was reading it on vacation, and he was like, this has to be a musical.
Really?
And it's about like a dude. That's the whole thing. He's telling a story.
Right.
The story, he did have a little bit of artistic liberties. So, of course, any show you watch, book you read, the author's going to use their artistic liberties.
Right.
But it's pretty darn close because the author was involved. There's a couple of songs that are based off of some Biggie, some Tupac, perhaps,
that's
some
cool.
Wu-Tang. But there's a particular part of the play. It's the second act, and George Washington is now the president, and one of his tasks is he has to pick his first cabinet. There's been no president, no cabinet. Got to set the precedent for that. So he picks his buddies, and he picks Thomas Jefferson, cool bro.
Yeah.
But he's like very worldly, secular.
Yeah.
Picks him to be a Secretary of State. He's like, you hang out in France and England. Jefferson's all about it. And then he picks Hamilton, who's this like street rat. Kind of climbed up the ranks during the war.
Yeah.
And is like he wants to be part of something bigger than him.
Yeah.
And he's the Secretary of Treasury because this dude is a genius.
Okay.
He was like a
Hamilton is.
yeah.
Okay.
He was
Street rat.
He was orphaned essentially. He lived in
He's a grinder.
yeah.
Yeah, he grew up on the streets.
Yeah.
He got street smarts.
That's
He went
right.
to school of hard knocks.
He lived on I want to say St. Croix. I could be wrong. So he wasn't even born in America, and he was orphaned. By the time he's 12, he's doing the books for a trading company, and all the people on his
Wow.
island are like, "We got to get this guy off the island, get him to New York, get educated." So
That's
they like
awesome.
raised a bunch of money, send him. Super smart dude. So he's the Secretary of Treasury, and his goal is to try and get America out of debt after the war.
Nice.
A little bit of debt, but there's a lot of fights because who pays the debt? Do the states pay it? Do we assume the state's debts and pay it off? So he comes up with this financial plan. And so we have a rap battle between Jefferson and Hamilton about Hamilton's financial plan.
Okay. Oh, you're going to rap it?
Oh, this is
We
awesome.
do this in front of our students, and I
Oh,
think
that's
it's great.
cool.
George Washington's president at this point, and he has a cabinet meeting. The cabinet only consists of Hamilton, Jefferson, and two other dudes, which do not include John Adams because he was just the vice president. The vice president is not an important person. I said what I said. This is Jefferson first. The topic is Hamilton has this idea for this financial plan. We need to hear him out.
Yeah.
He's the Treasury Secretary. Like, we should hear what he has to say.
Right.
But he's also a Federalist, and Federalists are all about big central government. And Jefferson, staying true to his roots, and he's a Democratic Republican. The South is Democratic Republicans. Are like, if you give this kind of power to the central government through the elastic clause,
Yeah.
we're done. We're done
Yeah.
for. This starts off with Jefferson. I'm embarrassed myself here. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We fought for these ideals, we shouldn't settle for less. These are wise words, enterprising men quote 'em. Don't act surprised, you guys, 'cause I wrote 'em out. But Hamilton suggests the federal government should assume states' debts. Now place your bets as to who that benefits. The very seat of government where Hamilton sits. Not true. Oh, if the shoe fits, wear it. If New York's in debt, why should Virginia bear it? Don't tax the South because we got it made in the shade. In Virginia, we plant seeds in the ground. We create. You just want to move our money around. This financial plan is an outrageous demand, and it's too many damn pages for any man to understand. Stand with me in the land of the free and pray to God we never see Hamilton's candidacy. Look, when Britain taxed our tea, we got frisky. Imagine what's going to happen when you try to tax our whiskey. Because there was a whole whiskey rebellion. There's some shit going on. So
Tax
James
my whiskey
Madison's
book.
in the back all like puffing up and like we're
Yeah.
dropping mics and stuff and feeling good. And here comes Hamilton. Hamilton is very young, very smart, but according to Jefferson, super inexperienced. And he, in fact, wanted to have a monarchy in America. Well, that's another story. All right, so Hamilton comes in and says, Thomas, that was a real nice declaration. Welcome to the present. We're running a new nation. Would you like to join us or stay mellow doing whatever the hell it is you do at Monticello? That's his house. If we assume the debts, the Union gets a new line of credit, a financial diuretic. How do you not get it? If we're aggressive and competitive, the Union gets a boost. You rather give it a sedative? A civics lesson from a slaver. Hey, neighbor, your debts are paid because you don't pay for labor. We plant seeds in the ground we create. You keep ranting, but we know who's really doing the planting. And another thing, Mr. Age of Enlightenment, don't lecture me about the war. You didn't fight in it. You think I'm frightened of you, man? You almost died in the trench while you were off getting high with the French. Thomas Jefferson, always hesitant with the president, reticent. There isn't a man he doesn't jettison. Land he doesn't jettison. Madison, you mad as a hatter, so take your medicine. Damn, you're in worse shape than the national debt is in. Sitting there useless as two shits. Hey, turn around, bend over. I'll show you where my shoe fits. Madison was sick, and
Hamilton's
he was on a
my
lot
boy.
of medicine.
I like Hamilton. I think Hamilton won that
neutrality.
one.
Oh, yeah, Hamilton.
Yeah.
Definitely. Hamilton.
Now, let's be real. Hamilton's financial plan, it was wild to think about, to think like, we're going to take all the state's debt and then just pay it off. Even though some of the states already paid it off. Jefferson's like, we don't have debt from the war. But New York is like drowning in debt.
Yeah.
That's not fair. But we did it and created credit so that come the War of 1812 and all the further wars, we can get aid from other countries
Yeah.
because we paid our debts off to them, especially France. So he was right. And even after Hamilton died, Jefferson said, I hated the guy and I thought his financial plan was insane, but he was right. He was right.
Wow.
We thank you so much for coming in.
You're sitting with the kids in the back of the class now.
Those are my favorite kids.
Yeah.
Check us out at manfuse.com. Listen wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple. We're all over the place.
Carrier pigeons.
Carrier
If
pigeons
you know about carrier pigeons, please hit us up.
at manfuse.com.
Let us know.
Yes, we
Where
want
can we get one?
Where can our podcast be delivered by carrier pigeon?
Attention,
crazy.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah.